Hey, everybody, and once again, welcome to another episode of Internet Traffic Kings. I'm the Big Fabu, John Fondy. We're broadcasting from the studios at UNLV in fabulous Las Vegas. You can see behind me things are kind of slowing down a little bit here. We kind of thought we were out of the water for a little bit with the way things are going, but it's not just Las Vegas. It's kind of the whole world and the different things and the way that things are basically going. I want to remind everybody that this is a non-ad supported show, which means we don't have commercial breaks in it. And that's a gift from our executive producer, the Click Father. But you can support us by going to Apple Podcasts and give us a 5-star rating while you're in there. You can listen to us on Spotify. Our YouTube channel is doing awesome. You can see us on Facebook as well as great information on internettraffickings.com. And so we are now taping episode 19, and our executive producer, Kevin DiVincenzi, the Click Father. Kevin, can you believe we're up to 19 shows now?
Not bad. Not bad. And you mentioned the Apple Podcast. We're already at over 200 5-star reviews, which is pretty impressive. Some of our competing channels that have been doing it for 4 years have 500 to 600 reviews. So we're at 200 on show, call it 18 that just got released, or 17 at that point.
17.
So we're trending really well. So it's great.
And so, YouTube's still doing well?
Yeah, YouTube's still averaging 15 to 17,000 views a week per episode. So absolutely.
I mean, that's phenomenal.
Organic traffic, people subscribing and watching the episodes. So good stuff.
So, well, the great thing about that is Kevin, you've really got some great associations out there, and you've brought on some great guests and really diverse. I mean, I don't think we've covered two of the same topics in all of the shows.
Well, yeah, the internet's very diverse. There's so many different opportunities out there, so I'm doing my best to cover all different aspects of it.
Speaking of opportunities, I want you to take a look at this.
Oh, look at that.
Look at that, huh?
You got your shirt.
That's
I got one.
So yeah, we're kind of repping the merch right now and stuff like that.
That's right.
So,
yeah.
So anyway, but as we kind of continue on, it seems like something. The show's very topical as well. We talk about stuff that is current and get current information and current guests that are out there, and we get people watching and listening to the show. I mean, literally from all over the world. So that's the power of the internet and what we do. So, you're down in Malibu. That's one of your second homes here, and you get to Vegas every now and then. But I'm telling you that the governor's going to make a statement on Monday, and he's going to come out and basically tell who can do what and who can't do what, and they're just not going to make it generic. They're actually going to go into the high traffic areas and make some significant rules with that. But one of the things that I've noticed here about Las Vegas is you can't. All the shows have closed down. The shows that have
I actually spoke to somebody that's in the cast of Le Rêve a couple months ago, and they said that it's about half capacity for them to break even. So even to be allowed to be reopened, they'd still have to run half capacity to even break even on the show. So it's going to be interesting how they could do that. So that would be, if they did every other seat, essentially, they'd be at a break even.
Well, that's an expensive show.
Right.
That is going to be tough to break even to where if you've just got a smaller show out there, and you can cut a deal with the showroom or something like that. But so a lot of shows here in Las Vegas are doing Zoomcasts, and that's how they're kind of getting out there as well. So really adaptability, that's what we talk about.
Yeah, I mean, luckily now we have the technology where you can do that, right? It's not perfect by any means, but you can, we've been involved, as you know, with Darren Blatt with his virtual conference, and I've been to many virtual conferences and, watch virtual concerts, and there's a lot of different things that you can now do online. Yeah. No, it's not the same by any means, but it's definitely at least bridging some of the gap of what's been lost in the interim.
Yeah, and I'm finding my business is actually kind of peaking as well, not only from the podcast standpoint, but a lot of people want to actually shoot stuff they want to shoot stuff with a real camera and real
Right.
lighting and stuff like that. So
Right.
we're kind of seeing that trend kind of starting back and forth. And I'm over at Vegas PBS quite a bit, shooting over there. We
Nice.
still can't shoot in our studio here at UNLV other than my little green screen studio as
Right.
well. So so anyway, so Kevin, can you feel it kind of warming up a little bit? Things kind of
Yeah.
heating up a little bit, and
Sure.
I think they're going to actually kind of start flaming here a little bit, no pun intended. But as we do, this is what we're going to do is throw you once again, kind of into the hot seat here in just a little bit. But before we do that, how about the industry? Is there some stuff that's trending a little bit better than other things right now?
Yeah, I mean, I look at Google Trends. It's a free tool from Google, which is really interesting because it shows you, what's currently being searched for. And on the top, I mean, a lot of things were obvious, right? Fish finders and boating gear and camping gear. But then I found some weird ones like whipped cream had 100% increase in search terms. Hair loss treatments 90% increase, where I'm thinking, okay, I guess it's because people are at home, so they're taking more time for self-care and they're searching and buying more of these products, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, Google Trends is great to see what's trending.
See what people are doing, what they're thinking about. You can also
Yeah.
see what the boredom level is out there.
Yeah, no, a lot of bread making and a lot of at home recipes and things of that nature, for sure.
And I think the hair loss thing is good because people aren't going out anyway. So whatever you're going to do, you can do it slowly over a period of time, and it's not
Right.
going to be risky as well. And I've even there's a company out there that makes hair coloring for women, and
Right.
they've now switched over to making hair coloring for men now as well. So
Yeah, I was gonna say your hair looks a lot more colorful today.
yeah, that's right. At least it's barely there. So that's what's trending on me. So right now, but as I was alluding to before, it's heating up there in Malibu, and the reason for that is because we're going to throw you from the frying pan right into the fire as this
Go for it.
become pretty popular now, as we've got people sending in questions and right off the top of your head, you answer these questions, and I guess that shows the 23 years of experience that you've got
As
out
best
there
I can, for sure.
as you can. You learn a lot. You train a little bit. You learn something. But the other great thing about this industry is everybody truly, and for the most part, everybody tries to help each other out as much as they possibly can.
Absolutely.
So I've seen that. Where in Hollywood, everybody's at each other's throat. But here in Las Vegas, everybody works together and they try to help each other out. And it's a
Yep.
much better avenue, much better feelings. You can call up a friend and get some advice and stuff like that.
Right.
So speaking of calling up and getting some advice, this question comes from Cincinnati, Ohio, and it comes from Mike. And Mike says, when you run Google search ads, do you run just Google or Google partners? And what about the display network?
So yeah, so when you run a Google search ad, it'll automatically opt you into display partners and into display partner. Into the partner network and display on search. So you would have to manually uncheck those. We do run partner networks and we do run display select, but we run them after testing. So first we'll run just Google. So if I'm doing a test, I'll just run traffic directly on Google. And then if I need more volume, I can then introduce the partner networks and or the display network. And it's all about testing, right?
Yeah.
But to run it as a default, I wouldn't do that because most of your spend could happen on the display network, whereas you would find the results more on the search network because that's intent driven, where the display network is more based on the audience and what have you.
That makes
definitely uncheck it when I test it. And then if I needed more volume, explore either display select or search partners.
And can you run split tests in those?
Absolutely. Yep. Well? You can do A/B splits for sure.
And so, and I guess that's kind of the thing about it when you're doing something for the first or the second time. It's, what do they say? Measure twice and cut once. So,
right.
So you can really
Absolutely.
make
Yeah.
sure
It's
that
all,
you're,
it's all about testing.
yeah, spend your money. And we've had some guests on the show that have talked about that as well too, and
Mhm.
good information out there. So,
Oh
um,
yeah. The landing page guys, Oliver, I mean, that's all
yeah,
they do is test and optimize. I mean, that's part of the game for
yeah.
sure.
And so, and they're all been helpful as well. Kevin, I wanted to also mention that for most cases, you charge about $1,000 an hour for consultation and stuff,
Mhm.
but
Correct.
you're have an offer out there for our guests to say that if they need to ask you some questions or need to get in touch with you, that you'll sit and chat with them for free for a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's
During these challenging times, sometimes it's a very small pivot somebody needs to be able to change their business, especially in these times. And, it takes an outside source to see that with the experience and say, I would really go this way instead of that way. Sometimes you get blinded because you're so involved in the day to day.
and I'm excited to have this guest on. He's diverse. He's a great guy, gives great information. Of course, we're talking about Anthony Horovitz with yourentme.com. How are you,
Thank
man?
you. And I'm great. Thanks, John. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing well, thank you. I'm doing well. Love your background, man.
Thank you. Yeah. And just to clarify, you rent me is the letter URENTME.com in case people type in the word you. But
Well, good. I'm glad you mentioned that, and we can also see
Yeah,
it
because
through.
if you go to the other one, you'll find John Fondi's profile on there.
yeah.
And of course, they can also see that brilliant logo on your shirt. So thanks for
Oh, thank you. Trying to right there. Yeah.
everybody's wearing their merch out here today as well. So that's awesome as well. So, and Anthony, we haven't seen each other for a long time, and you haven't missed a step, man. Kind of catch us up a little bit to what you've been up to.
Well, so since we last spoken, I was trying to get a couple things off the ground digitally, and I decided that I wanted to go after my dream, which was to incorporate an application that allowed people to utilize the outdoor equipment, power sports and whatnot, and incorporate that in like an Airbnb type business model, and also allowing people to capitalize and monetize on their assets that they would just normally sit in a garage. So,
Well, yeah, and I think that's the one thing about it is so many people, for two reasons. They'll get the thing, and a lot of these things are seasonal as well too. So they just sit around and doing nothing, and other opportunities are if you're thinking about wanting to get an RV, or you're wanting to get a motorcycle, or you're wanting to get a jet ski or something like that. Gives you a chance to try a couple of them out and find out what really works for you.
and that you
Yeah, I
make a
mean,
great
we're
point.
yeah.
Sorry, Kevin, go
I
ahead.
was gonna say we're in the sharing environment now, right? Between Airbnb, and this is like the Airbnb of power sports. For car rental, you have Turo. There's so many different ways to rent and test things, and that's just the economy we're in. So I think it's fabulous.
Yeah, I think they had a moped situation in New York that just kind of came up where they had some serious problems with that. And they basically took, it was a shared moped thing like they do with bicycles and stuff. And
Yeah.
Okay.
they had some challenges with it. Probably didn't do enough testing as we talked about in the earlier segment.
Yeah, and in that respect, but when people are keeping these items in the garage and things that don't get utilized, they're not maintained well and they have to be used. So this gives the opportunity for people that maybe, who don't own these, that can take advantage of what you had said. Maybe they want to buy one, right? And they want to try this out, this specific model that you would normally never be able to try out.
Mm-hmm.
And this gives you the opportunity to have, that experience as well as have your family with you, whether that be in the sand dunes or that be on trails or a mountain somewhere, whether it be a snowmobile in the winter. This gives the opportunity, to test and enjoy at the same time.
Well, and I think as diverse as Nevada is, and Las Vegas in particular, there should be a lot of people that should take advantage of that here because we've got water, we've got trails, we've got snow, we've got and people travel in and out of Las Vegas as well too. So
Exactly.
so that this should be a good opportunity for you here in Las Vegas. But we'd love to get you out here anyway.
Yeah, no, we're here. The company is based in Henderson in the Vegas area, but we're a nationwide company. We actually have inventory in every state in the country. So we're expanding, rapidly. I mean, we have something in Maine, we have stuff in Florida. The majority of our product is in California, Nevada, Arizona, Texas, and Utah. There's a lot of branching out there.
And what's the criteria to rent, Anthony, as far as for somebody to go on? I mean, anybody can browse, right? I mean, anybody can go on and browse and see what's available, but then to rent, what is it, 25 and over? What's the criteria there?
Good question, Kevin. So it's 25 and over is the minimum, because we have, we also provide insurance to the rent.
So you guys provide the insurance. That's great.
Yeah, we do. We provide
Wonderful.
the insurance, which is incorporated into the rental, and we manage the transactions, much as like Airbnb would manage, for the host. We manage the security deposit on the item, and we manage a transaction, and the renter goes out and meets up with the owner, and they do their checkout, and then they go enjoy themselves for their rental. And then they can leave a review afterwards. They have reviews they can leave for each other, much like you can for Airbnb or Turo.
Now, is there a business, or me being an entrepreneur, I have to ask this question, is there a business opportunity where somebody can also buy some stock, as in certain items that they know are selling or renting well, and then rent them, just like people have become entrepreneurs with Turo and they have a fleet of 30 cars? Could I technically have a fleet of 6 jet skis that I'm renting out through your system? Would that make sense?
Absolutely. It does make sense. So, for example, whether you want to buy them as a capital purchase or if you're going to pay per month on them, many people do that. They have a business, the LLC or sole proprietorship, where they set up a payment system through us, and then when they rent, those funds go directly to the business. So, obviously there's an opportunity as an entrepreneurial way, or an opportunity for any normal individual just that wants to make their payment, whether it be 1 rental a month or 2 rentals. Or we have a guy, for an example, out of Utah that's rented over 70 times. His Polaris Razor. So he's obviously more than paid for that unit and then some. But obviously that alludes to your opportunity question. Absolutely.
Sure.
Well, and then how about, do you ever move the product around from state to state where the needs are greater?
When you say move, you mean like, if you're allowed to take the product out of state, or?
No, like when it's, you've got a bunch of snowmobiles, so you move those up to Utah or something.
John, keep in mind, each person has their own stock. So Anthony's not holding any stock.
No, nothing.
Right? So each person has their own stock. So I think the question would more be, if I'm in California and I want to rent something out of Vegas, is that a possibility where you could arrange transport and everything else?
Of course, 100%. We've had, I'll give you an example of that question, John and Kevin, is we have a gentleman that came into town from Michigan that wanted to go to the sand dunes, and he arranged to have 2 razors, which are UTVs, delivered to him and then picked up. So, no matter what your circumstance, as long as there's an agreement for delivery and pickup, you can do that wherever you want.
What about, and now the music festivals are obviously postponed for a while, but at the music festivals as well, like Coachella or what have you, is there an opportunity where somebody could say, hey, I'm going to Coachella and I want an RV, and a UTV, for the week. Can you have them delivered, set up for me and everything else? Is that something
Absolutely. So there's a cost factor
of course
for that. But if the owner is willing, as you know, we don't own any of the equipment or anything.
Right.
We're like much, we arrange and assist.
Yeah,
but,
you're the liaison, right?
Right, exactly. If the owner works with the renter, they communicate and decide, okay, I'll charge you X to deliver it to Coachella, and I'll also give you, usage of my quad, and it's going to be this much per day, which we of course also insure. And then they have that up front, and the payment's made, and we manage that. So you can monetize on the festivals. I mean, obviously during this time, there is a huge influx of people wanting to be outdoors because of the initial quarantine that we've been.
Yeah, they call them COVID campers.
COVID campers, exactly.
They said since 1972, that was the last big spike in RV sales. And then there was a small spike in 2017 where 500,000 were sold. But since then, I think I was listening to a podcast that said just in May, Campers World had the best week ever for the company-wide, the best week ever, and basically on RV sales. So
And that alludes to that's correct. And that for power sports industry, which would include jet skis, dirt bikes, motorcycles, ATVs, UTVs, all and boats, there's no stock. So if you want to go buy something, there's nothing available. And
no, I know, and that's for anything. I mean, I just bought a new vehicle 2 months ago, and you have to take whatever's here. There's nothing in the port. There's nothing coming in. All production has stopped. So it's, and with the vehicle I bought, there's certain options I didn't need. And the guy's like, well, that's your choice. Like, that's it,
But with this influx of purchasing, these people aren't going to necessarily use it every day, right? So what they'll want to do is when they're not using it, then they can go and earn money on it. So for example, like this month is been a stellar month for the company. We've never had, as busy as we've been, where every weekend we have people calling, do you have this available? We just don't. Everything is booked. So that's a good thing. I mean, obviously the need is there. And, obviously being able to monetize on these things when you didn't know you could is a good way for people to, have that extra cushion financially you may not have right now, depending on.
Well, good. Well, thank you so much. Again, the website is right there on the shirt, yourentme.com. That's with the letter.
I had one more question before you throw Anthony off the show. Jeez.
Thank you, John.
So Anthony, as far as working with affiliates, how does that work? So if I'm an affiliate listening to the podcast and I'm, like, this is a great idea, I want to promote it. Are you actively working with affiliates? How do they contact you? Do you have an affiliate page, et cetera?
We do have an affiliate program that we've revised. We had one initially, and we're revising one now, and that's going to be launched with our new mobile app, which I actually let you see a little
amazing.
try
Yeah, amazing.
And that'll be in about
really
a month.
Cool.
So they'll be able to, financially benefit from signups and people who list their items. In addition to when people rent them out specifically, there's monetization on that. So if they
but in the meantime, if an affiliate wants to contact you, do you mind if I share your email address?
No, they can. You can send me an email directly.
Anthony at yourentme.com, URENTME.com, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Well, good. Thanks, Dan. Stick around. We're going to have our roundtable session here coming up right after this. But right now, we are going to let the dogs out and out of the green room as well.
Woof, woof.
That's what it's all about. And of course, we're talking about the big dog himself, ladies and gentlemen, Bennett Kelly.
How are you guys doing? I'm doing fine.
Hey,
yourself?
Doing good. And we're doing well. And you can, of course, reach Bennett at B. Kelly at internetlawcenter.net. And hey, I like your shirt, Bennett. It looks good.
Nice shirt, buddy.
Got some new styles here.
That's right. Yeah. So this kind of cuts down on our wardrobe costs, and we can let our costumers now go and stuff like that. So a lot going on this week, Bennett. So why don't you fill our audience in a little bit on what you dug up as the dog?
So imagine, if you will, a Austrian student goes to a law school in Silicon Valley, and there's a speaker there from Facebook, and they ask him a question about European privacy law, and the Facebook speaker kind of fumbles and more or less says, well, we don't really pay attention to that. Well, not a good move to begin with, but that Austrian student then goes back to Austria and requests from Facebook all data is collected on him, as is his right under EU law. And he ends up getting a stack of documents this big after only being on Facebook a short period of time. He then proceeds to file a complaint against Facebook in Ireland, which is where Facebook's regulated in Europe, under European privacy law, that leads to the US-EU safe harbor being invalidated by the European Court of Justice in 2015. And that safe harbor was the framework in which companies transferred data back and forth between Europe and the US. Since the US wasn't deemed to have sufficient privacy practices, you could transfer it to companies that agreed to this safe harbor because they agreed to do certain additional measures. A big part of that decision was the whole Edward Snowden scandal and revelations that social media companies and cell phone companies were supplying data to the NSA. So in place of the safe harbor, the EU and the US renegotiate another thing called the Privacy Shield. Well, 2 weeks ago, that same former student, now a 33-year-old guy named Schrems, he had filed a second case against Facebook, and that got thrown out by the European Court of Justice again. In addition, that framework is gone. And in addition, there's a separate framework where you're allowed to transfer data between the US and the EU, where you relied on certain approved contract clauses. And the court said that requires a country-by-country determination about whether or not it's appropriate to allow such transfers to be made if the company isn't making additional safeguards in place to compensate for the inadequacies of US privacy law. So it just threw into up in the air the whole data regime between the US and the EU, which is the largest trading partnership in the world. And so the kid's 33 years old and he's 2-0 against Facebook.
I guess sometimes you got to know when to choose your battles and which ones as well.
Exactly.
So, but I guess we're probably seeing a lot of changes that are taking place this year with new laws and regulations that are coming out and stuff. Is that all going to be tough to enforce with all the new stuff and the new regulations?
Well, I mean, it's going to be a challenge. I mean, for one, obviously there's a regulatory challenge. But the FTC, for example, if you say you're complying with the safe harbor that's no longer, or the privacy shield that's no longer in existence, the FTC can go after you. Companies that transfer data in Europe to the US can be prosecuted in Europe. And so it just creates a lot of uncertainty. And then of course here, with California, their law, they've already sent out some warning letters. There's a question of how great a resource they have to prosecute. And there's a new ballot initiative that will actually create a privacy agency and give California roughly about the same size as the FTC in terms of privacy enforcement, and allow them to staff. And that may pass. So you may see more enforcement after that, but for the time being, I think budgets are tight, and finding people to go after people on privacy is never easy.
Are you seeing any ransom scams going out there where people are basically faking challenges or faking coming after you and stuff like that, or is that a little harder to prove?
I did just see a PPP, the first PPP indictment, where somebody in Florida, Bennett, I don't know if you saw this.
I saw it too.
Yeah, he claimed was 3.9 million. He had all these employees, got funding, which I did a PPP myself as well, and I know that you had to certify with your payroll and everything. So I don't know how he fudged it, but ended up buying a Lamborghini. They spent the money.
I saw that. Yeah,
a Lamborghini. Yeah. Dating sites, which I don't know what that means, jewelry, and like a bunch of other stuff. But good for them. They got him pretty quick. I mean, he applied in April, so let's say he got funded in April, and they've already arrested him.
They've already got the
only in July.
You hear stories like that, and you realize the criminal mind is not a compliment.
Yeah.
Well, but also, Bennett, I think because they were in such a rush to get these approved that they weren't really checking very well, and I think this is the first of probably many that you're going to see come down. I'm sure there's quite a few different people. I was personally extra careful how we filed it to make sure we did everything properly and by the book, obviously. But some people are just probably like, hey, let me just pretend I have 100 employees. Oh man, $3 million. Okay, let's do it.
Who's going to know? But now people will know.
Right.
Yeah.
He's facing
the downside is that could also slow down the process in the future.
Absolutely. Right.
Well, what about the fact of what if he just paid that money back? Like
no, they said he's. I mean, at least the article I read, 70 years in prison is what he's facing. you know, if all
Yeah,
charges.
government fraud's not a good thing. It's not recommended.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
that is true. All right. Well,
I learned in law school the bygones defense, not a good one.
you know, that's true. A lot of times there's the guilty until proven innocent stuff that kind of flies in there as well too. So you got to
Right.
look behind it. So, so Bennett, tell us how we can get in touch with you, and what are you up for?
So you can get in touch with me at the internetlawcenter.net or on Twitter at internetlawcent, C-E-N-T. And that's the best way to find me.
Okay, well, awesome.
Great.
Well, want to thank Anthony Horowitz from YouRentMe.com for being on here. Good input. It was enjoyable. We're just sitting here taking a vacation on your background as well. So we want to thank.
Great. Look at that.
Yeah,
Where is the background?
You see the background? That's
Yeah, where is it?
Actually, I believe it's Arizona, northern Arizona.
Yeah, it
Very
looks
nice.
good. I
It's
like
pretty
it.
area. I've driven through it.
Good stuff.
Nice.
Of course, I like your background, John.
Yeah. What's that?
Your background.
Yep, that's what Vegas is starting to look like right now as well. And so for a while I was able to put up the welcome to Las Vegas sign, but I had to take that down after a couple of weeks. But hey, tell us something that we should know, or something that we absolutely need to know at this time, Anthony.
You know, I was thinking about this before too. I don't know how many of everyone has kids, but you know, now with the most recent lockdown of schools, and schools are going to be from home, it does pose an issue with the parenting and at home. So at first I was like, oh, this is not going to be great. You know, I have to work, and I always work anyways every day. You know, it gives me an opportunity to now maybe have a different relationship with my child versus just taking her to school, dropping her off, see you later. Now you can be a little bit more involved. Now, I'm sure that this will not last, obviously, but I guess we could take advantage of the fact that, you know, we could spend more time with them, and because my daughter's going into high school. So that's a big deal.
Wow.
I mean, Kevin already has, you know, experienced that with his daughter. So, I mean, you know, it's that's the only thing I could say, that. And then, of course, get in touch with your loved ones that you normally do not maintain during these busy times. So we're all busy people running businesses, and sometimes you forget to maintain relationships. And I would just say it's better now than never to do that. So.
Well, we're going to throw a bone to the big dog right now, Bennett. Something we should know and something we need to know.
Sure. So something you should know, NIST, the National Institute for Standards and Technology, which regulates a whole lot of things, and from gas station pumps to has provides recommendations on privacy, has come out with new guidelines on passwords that more or less say, keep it simple, stupid. All this, you know, using special characters and redoing your password every 3 hours they say is ridiculous. It's just, it leads to people using less safe passwords. So they're saying no complexity or special characters should be required, no password expiration, but check that the passwords you use are not on list of previously breached passwords, which you can find online, and but at least have an 8-character minimum. So that's what you should know. What you need to know is I saw a headline which is appropriate. You know the Jay-Z song 99 Problems. Well, he has 99 problems, and ADA is one of them. The Americans for Disabilities Act, which just turned 30 years old this weekend. And there's a lot of enforcement going on, lawsuits out there for websites that aren't compliant with the ADA. They're not accessible for those who may be visually or orally impaired. So
there you go. All right.
You know.
All right. Clickfather, take us home.
Yeah, I'm just going to talk about traffic for a minute. Facebook's back banning a bunch of accounts, and for no good reason. So there's a lot of other traffic out there. So if you're just running Facebook, and I get it, it works for you, I would still look. There's so many different other traffic sources out there besides your main, your Google, your Yahoo. There's, you know, all different. TikTok ads is a new one where you can now do self-serve. You know, YouTube is a great, you know, if you can do video ads. There's so many different things out there that you can do instead of being reliant, you know, they call it SPOF, right? Single point of failure. If you have that single point of failure, if that stops, your whole business stops. So at least diversify and have different traffic sources, just like if you owned a grocery store and you relied on one vendor. If that one vendor goes on strike, you don't have any groceries to sell your patrons. Same thing here, have different sources coming in so that you are diversified. That's a key to longevity.
Well, great. I appreciate that information very much. So we want to remind our audience that this is a non-ad supported show, but you can support us by giving us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. You can also listen to us on Spotify. YouTube channel is phenomenal as well. And you can also go to our Facebook page or internettraffickings.com and join the party. Also send those questions in so we can put the ClickFather in the hot seat. And so, for Internet Traffic Kings, I'm the Big Fabu, John Fondy, broadcasting from the campus of UNLV. And we will see you next time on Internet Traffic Kings.